My name is Amanda Vitello, and I'm with the SpringBoard program here at the College Board. I'm going to be your host and moderator today. I do a few things to just let you know about before we begin. This webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording within the next 48 hours via email. We also will be uploading this recording into the professional learning section on SpringBoard Digital. When you go to SpringBoard Digital, you'll see a section that says webinars, and you'll see this recording in there. It does take a little bit of time. There's a bit of a delay because we do have to process the video before we can post it up there, but that's where eventually all of the webinars will live. So with that out of the way, I'd want to take a moment and just allow Erica to introduce herself, and then we'll shift over to Tammy and we'll get started for today.
Hi guys, I'm Erica Finchen. I'm the Senior Director of Digital Products for SpringBoard. So if you have any questions about how the application is working or how to use it, or would like to suggest enhancements or tell us about a problem that you're experiencing, I'm here to help support you. Thanks.
Great, and Erica is going to be on answering questions that come in through the Q&A today. And now I want to go ahead and pass it over to Tammy. She's going to lead us through this session and really share her experience and expertise related to SpringBoard Digital for Math.
Hello, thank you guys for being here. So my name is Tammy Buckshire. I've taught elementary, middle school, high school. I worked as a math specialist and then went back to teaching high school. For the past 18 years, I have worked with SpringBoard. So it has taken many forms, and there's been a lot of great improvements over the years, but this is by far my favorite role, is just getting to work with my fellow teachers on how to implement SpringBoard in a way that is most effective for our students. So again, I am a colleague, totally here to support you. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here, especially at the start of the school year when we're all so busy already. But hopefully you'll be able to take away some good things from this webinar. Again, thank you for also doing the poll. So it looks like we have a combination of people that have completely new to SpringBoard and those that are more familiar with it. So hopefully, even if you've used SpringBoard Digital before, there might be some new things that are new to you. And again, if you are totally new to this, I just want to say totally upfront that this is an introductory webinar on some things that we can use SpringBoard Digital for when facilitating a math lesson, whether it's in the classroom or virtual or some weird hybrid mix. So we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of like how to make that box pop up and how exactly to do everything. It's more of an overview of how we might use some of these features. So so please do not feel overwhelmed if you feel like, oh, this is a lot of information. As Amanda said, it's going to be recorded and posted so you can go back to it at any time. And I'm also going to refer you to a lot of links and places you can go for future support when you have time to sit and click around, right? I mean, we're teachers, we know that we learn by doing, right? So doing it is the best way to learn it. So going through the webinar is a good, effective way of doing it in a really short time, but once you really get in there and have a chance to click around and do hands-on, you'll have some more questions and it'll make a lot more sense to you. All right, so again, thank you for taking that poll for us. Okay, these are the webinar interactions that we're gonna use for today. So the Q&A button that you see at the bottom of your Zoom screen, I'd like you to put any questions that you have there so that we can answer your questions and they'll be matched up with your question, okay? So I would prefer you put it there than in the chat, because if you put it in the chat, there might be a lot of other things that get put there before the answer to your question comes. And so just to keep everything together, if you could always use the Q&A for any questions that you have. We're gonna respond to those as we go throughout the webinar. And so at the end, we will also have a specified Q&A time as well. The raise hand option is there for you, but I'm gonna ask for you to essentially kind of ignore that because I'm gonna be just kind of going through the webinar. Somebody will be answering the Q&A and then we're gonna have the Q&A at the end, but because of the way the webinar is structured, not being able to unmute and be more interactive, again, I'm just going to refer you back to that Q&A. And then periodically, we will have a couple polls just as a way to participate, kind of tell me how you guys are doing, what you're thinking about some of the things that we've been sharing. So our agenda for today looks like this. So we're in the opening right now. We'll start by just doing a quick 5-minute look at what is new in the digital platform. So again, those of you that have been on here before, this will be a quick highlight. Hey, these are some new features. If you've never been on SpringBoard Digital before, it's all going to be new to you. So I'll walk you through some components of it as we get into the rest of the agenda. But again, don't worry if we're not going to go detailed look at the whole platform in that first 5 minutes. Then we'll move on to the digital lesson experience. So that's when we're really going to talk about how could we use SpringBoard Digital to facilitate a lesson. Again, whether we're doing it in person in the classroom, and everything that we talk about is going to be applicable if you're the only person with a device. So maybe only the teacher has a device and you're going to display it on the LCD and facilitate a lesson that way, or right down to one person in each group has a device to a one-to-one digital experience. We're also going to make a lot of connections to, well, what if I'm a hybrid model, or what if I'm full virtual? How could I still use SpringBoard Digital to facilitate math lessons, full virtual situation? So everything that we do today is going to relate to all of those situations. And then we're going to finish by talking about our digital partners. So we're definitely going to address a lot of their features while we're going through the digital lesson experience. But then I'll pull out some additional highlights at the end there. And then again, we'll finish up with some Q&A. So again, if you have any questions that you feel like are really pertinent to what we're talking about right away, just use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask it then. Otherwise, feel free to save other questions until the end of our webinar. All right, so hopefully you've had a chance to download the resources for today. Okay, if not, there is a link in the chat that you can go ahead and click on to get this, this resource, or you can use the QR code scanner there and open it as well. Really all it is it is a graphic organizer, more or less. I'll screen share it for us right now. Okay, that is going to give us a place to take some notes. So the bulleted things, these are some highlights that I'm going to talk about. There's probably going to be a few more things that aren't bulleted in there, but it's just a place for you to take notes if that's your style. If your style is more of just a sit back and enjoy, then you do what works for you. Okay, I also put a few links in here, so even if you're not going to take notes during the webinar, just know that they're here for you. And if I reference something during the webinar, like, oh, the link to that is in the participant booklet, this is what I'm referring to. This is where you'll find some links on some of the things that we talk about, and the important tech support phone number. Okay, so again, just make sure you know that there. I'll pause for just a second to make sure you have time to access that link if you haven't already. All right, let's get started. So very brief, quick 5-minute look at the new platform. So SpringBoard Digital released a new ebook 2.0 version on July 1st. And so there are some things that are different about it than previously. So I'm going to take you into that digital ebook and just point out some of these new highlights so you know what to look for. All right, so you will notice once I have logged in here that SpringBoard has this new and improved user experience. Okay, it just offers a much more intuitive, direct, integrated way for us to access the program content and the resources. So you can see just right here on this landing page, the whole layout provides increased accessibility. It simplifies the use, providing direct, integrated materials at point of use. So everything that we need for each of our classes is in this one place without a filter. So the filtering issue, if you've ever used SpringBoard Digital before, was something that we spoke as teachers that we would really like some changes with the filter, and they are amazing on the tech team, and they listened, and these are some of the changes that they made. I'm going to show you some of that filtering in a second. But it's just great because we can better navigate from class to class by using this pull down up here. So these are all the classes that I have in right now. If you go on yours and you notice you don't have any classes, you very simply just come right here and you can add your class. So you just pick whatever class you want from this drop down, and I might have more than one book assigned to that class. And so right here, I can just click here and it would show me any books that I have assigned. Now you're thinking, well, what book do they need more than if they're Algebra 1, they have the Algebra 1 book. But in order to accelerate or to fill in gaps in learning, you might also want to assign the course before or the course after. So maybe in this case, the course 3 or the Algebra 2 book. And so right here is this quick, easy, I can add another book to this class too if I want. So every time I log into SpringBoard Digital, I just make sure I'm in the class I want and then the book that I'm working with. And then everything that is listed in these tabs here now is all relevant to this book. So there's no more going into assessments and seeing them for all the course levels and filtering. And now it's just, if I'm in this book, here's all the resources that go along with it, all the assessments that go along with it, and so on. So that's what they mean by that, easier to use. Everything is right here at point of use. So I wanted to show you with the ebook, which we're going to spend a lot of time in today, there's really been very few changes, and those I'll model for you when we get in there. The teacher resources, the biggest change to the teacher resources at this time is that it's in alphabetical order. So again, there's no need to filter because everything in here is for this book. These are all resources that go along with Algebra 1. Okay, but everything is just listed in alphabetical order. Okay, the big difference with assessments, again, is just that filtering, that it's all listed in alphabetical order as well. SpringBoard Digital provides 2 types of assessments for us. The lesson quiz that comes after every single lesson, just a short 3-question quiz, okay, in both print and digital form, and the unit assessment in both a version A and a version B. Okay, and so that's what we find here when we get into assessments. That's still the same as before. They're all in alphabetical order. In progress reports, one thing that is new there, which I'm super excited about, is this activity quizzes report. So there used to be all assessment reports would fall under unit assessment report. But again, with how amazing and responsive the tech team is, a bunch of us teachers said, well, but the unit assessment report should be a report on the unit assessment. And they said, no, it's any assessment in the unit. And so we said, well, we would really like to have them separated. And so that's what they did. So now there is a unit assessment report just for the unit assessments. And then there's an activity quizzes report for those lesson quizzes that come at the end of every single lesson. So that is the only change to the progress reports. Moving on to professional learning tab. Okay, there's this blue e-learning resources. And when you click on that, it opens up academic merit in a new tab in your browser. And you can see that they have these SpringBoard mathematics modules and also administrator modules. And so you can come in here and when you click launch, it will bring up these modules that used to be in the professional learning option on the left side, the one that looked like a globe in the old version. Okay, but now they're listed here, but they're new and improved. So they've all been revised and edited, and there's been an additional one that has been added, which is number 3. So when you come in here, you can go through, they each have like a participant booklet that goes along with it. You can begin it, and as you work through these self-paced modules, you actually get CEU credits for doing this. So they cover absolutely everything that is covered in the Math Initial Institute. And so I really recommend you go through, check those out. Again, they can be self-paced, but there's a lot of great information in there as well. All right, so class roster, there's nothing new there. That's the same as it was. And Desmos activities, again, is the same as it was. I'm going to show you a little bit about assigning those at the end when we talk about our partnerships. You might be noticing that when I come onto my landing page here, I don't see the community. Okay, so the community was a great place that we went oftentimes for support, like, oh, I'm having trouble logging in. But you couldn't even get to the community unless you were already logged in. So what they did, which is wonderful, is there's a separate springboard.collegeboard.org URL. So you don't have to go through your SpringBoard landing page to get there. You just come directly through this URL, which is on your participant booklet as a link already. So don't feel like you have to write that down. And when you come here, you notice right here, there's a SpringBoard digital dropdown. And so when I go there, there is all sorts of great stuff that you used to be able to find on the community, and it's been updated, and they're continually posting new things here. Like this support, I mean, I feel like every day I look in here and there's a lot of new great things. So including how to create, log into, and manage your account, which we'll model in a minute. But so this is taking the place of the old community. The only other change is that you notice our partnership. We have quick access to them at the bottom here, and we're going to talk about those a little bit later. The biggest one new being the Google Classroom partnership. So because so many districts use Google Classroom, we have this quick access button to it. Having said that, you don't have to be a Google Classroom district to use SpringBoard Digital. Everything functions completely the same. If you're not Google Classroom, it's just simply a quick link directly on the SpringBoard page to your Google Classroom if you have one. Okay, and we're going to talk more about that access and those links in a little bit here. Okay. So again, that is just a very brief overview on some of the new highlights when 2.0 version was released. So again, if you're still thinking, oh, I'm not sure about all of these different tabs, that's okay, you're not supposed to. But for those of you that have been on digital before, that's just a quick highlight about what is new. So I'm going to ask for you to go ahead and a poll should pop up on your screen. If you could take a couple seconds just to answer one change that maybe you're most excited about.
Okay, so it looks like we had folks respond to your poll, Tammy. It looks like a lot of folks are really excited about the new navigation on the landing page, and then also the connection to Google Classroom.
All right, which we're definitely going to be modeling. All right, thank you guys for doing that. So I'm going to move us right along to getting into that digital lesson experience. Okay, so I'm going to switch us right over here to back to the website, and we're going to go through this teacher to teacher, how we would do this. So again, I know there's a couple of people on the call that have never been in SpringBoard Digital or used it with their students. So again, the first question we have to get is how do you even set up a class, and how do you get people registered? How do I get registered? Okay, so again, I showed you this when we were doing the quick what's new to SpringBoard is the SpringBoard Digital page, this how to create, log in, and manage your account. Okay, so I just wanted to call your attention there for a minute, just so you can see some of the stuff that I'm going to show you is right here. Okay, so again, if you feel like I'm going too fast or, oh, I need to write all this down, it's actually right here step by step for you. But then I'm also going to give you a visual now by kind of walking you through this a little bit. Okay, so I'm already logged in, but what if I wasn't? All right, so your district, once your district purchases SpringBoard, whoever the contact is for your district, whether it's your principal or your curriculum director or your math person, okay, they are going to be given a district URL. So that's just what you type up here, okay, into your internet browser. Okay, so this is mine. Yours would be something different. It's usually it has your school name in it. Okay, so you would just type that in, and then you're going to click New to SpringBoard. When you do that, it right away asks you for your access code. So your district will give you two things. They'll give you your URL and your access code. And all you do is you put that in there, you answer some questions about what your name is and what you want your new password to be. And then when you log in, you have access just like you see I have access here. Okay, so the next question is like, okay, that's great. I'll get in and get registered, but what do I do then for my students? Like, how do I get my students registered? So there's two options. Either you're a single sign-on district or you're a Clever district. And so you would know if you're a Clever district, okay? If you're a Clever district, your district is going to take care of setting up your classes and putting your students in for you. They're going to you're going to go on to your class roster and you're going to see your classes all set up and you're going to see your students listed into that class. And you'll just note that if there are students that should be there or should not be there, you let your district Clever administrator know, and they'll take care of that for you. Those of us that are not Clever districts, what do you do? So if you are not a Clever district, then you come into your class roster okay? And you want to create a class. So all the way at the bottom, for you, it will be at the top if you're just starting. You click Create Class and you click this plus sign, okay? You just name it whatever you want your class to be called, and you pick a date for it to start and end, okay? And when you hit Create Class, okay, this little red triangle pops up, alerting you like there's something else that you need to do here in order to get started. So it's telling us that we need to assign a product to this class. So whatever book you want to assign to that class, so if this is my Algebra 1 class, I just click the Algebra 1 book. Whatever books, other books you would want to assign, you can assign however many books you want to that class. Those are the books that the students will see when they log into their own account in SpringBoard Digital. Okay, the next thing that you're going to want to look at in that class that we just created, this math class, okay, it tells you this access code. Okay, so what you do is you can send this code in Schoology, Canvas, Google Classroom, whatever LMS you use. You can email it to the kids. If you're in person, you just give it to them. Okay, and all they do is this is the code that they enter. So when they're back and we're trying to get our students in, we give them the same URL that we have. So again, this would be like my school's URL. I would give my students the same URL as me because I want them to be paired up with me. And when they go to new to SpringBoard, they put in that access code that was just given me on my class that I created. And so literally it is as easy as that. And then when you go in, you'll be able to, again, open up your class roster and confirm that all of your students are indeed registered in your class. And if they are not, you can support them with getting them in there. Okay.
That's great, Tammy. I wanted to add in just one additional piece of information that the registration, the rostering can also be done not only through Clever, but also through ClassLink. So we do have some districts that use that as their rostering system. So you're either like a single sign-on district using ClassLink or Clever, or you're a self-registration district, which is what you just walked through by sharing the code that teachers would give to their students.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, thank you.
So, okay, so now we're in, we have a class set up. I'm going to go to the class that I want to work with today. So I'll go to my webinar class, the book that I wanted to look at today. Okay, now if you're sitting there thinking, oh, but I'm not an Algebra 1 teacher, everything that we're going to talk about is not content specific. So the flow of the lesson, the way that you use these digital features are the same for all levels. So it really doesn't even matter which book we're in for our purposes today. Okay, so now as a teacher, I'm thinking, okay, I want to go ahead and start planning my digital lesson. Again, whether I'm using it digitally in person, face-to-face, or I'm doing it full virtual, maybe using Zoom or Google Meet or something else, this is how I would get started. So I'm going to go into my ebook. It auto opens to the last place you were. So the last place I was lesson 9.2. But if not, I come up here to this table of contents and I would say, okay, maybe at this point I'm in unit 2. I've made it all the way to lesson 9.2. I just click on that and it'll bring me right to the lesson that I need. Okay, so now here I am on lesson 9.2. I'm getting ready to plan it. And the first thing I'm thinking about is, how about a bell ringer? So I'm going to come over here to this teacher wrap and open it up and see what the recommended bell ringer is. Okay, and so I see that this is what they are recommending as the bell ringer. Now, again, I can choose to change that, or I can use the one that they've recommended. I'm going to use the one that they've recommended to model here. And now I'm going to just like single left click on any word just to make this box pop up. And then I'm going to choose sticky note. Okay. When I do, I'm going to title this my bell ringer. And I'm just going to paste in there what it said in the teacher wrap. But I want to make it student facing because the teacher wrap was talking to me. So all I have to do is delete a few words and there. Now it's student facing. Okay, so now I have the bell ringer there and ready for them, okay, when they log in. Okay, so the next thing I want to think about is the embedded assessment. So if I was in my classroom teaching a lesson, at this point, we would refer to that chart, maybe a web graphic organizer or our T-chart or our traffic light, referring back to the embedded assessment that we unpacked. If I wanted to do that digitally, one way of doing it is just to create a Google document, okay, or a Google drawing, okay? And so you can see I created one here that goes along with the lesson that we're talking about, so that I have this ready to either screen share from my own screen or to attach in the lesson for students to come to as needed. Okay, and so I would say right here, how do I attach that? Well, anywhere where you see this plus sign, where kids would put answers, we can always use that for teaching tools as well. So I come here, and if it's a web link, I can use this, and I can put my attachment in this way, okay? If it is a PDF document or a Word document that I've created, I just come to this paperclip, and I can go ahead and upload that file to have right here. So you can see I have already done that. Right here is this unpacked EA graphic organizer, the embedded assessment. So I have that there ready for my students when I go to facilitate this lesson and when they open it on their own papers. So now I'm also thinking about how about the interactive word wall? So I see right away they're going to get to rate of change, and we're going to have to be doing some interactive word wall here. So on this one, I just made a Google drawing. Again, I loved using Google Drawings for this because each kid can get their own copy, and they can actually use it interactively. So as much as I would always rather be in person teaching, if you have to be virtual or use virtual tools, this is one really good option because you can tell the kids, just go ahead, I want you to sort the words today, anything that has to do with slope put together, anything that has to do with whatever it may be. And so they can move them around on their own copy. They can add words as needed. So I have that interactive word wall here. Again, I can put it in as a link so that they can have easy access to that when they're doing the lesson. All right, so I'm planning the next thing that they're gonna do after they take the bell ringer is they're gonna do these learning targets. So what do? We always unpack them. So I wanna do this ahead of time. I'm going to go to mark the text, and I'm going to circle, right? Everyone says we circle the skills and we underline the knowledge. Some people say verbs and nouns, but I don't know whose students they have. My students never remember what verbs and nouns are. So we are going to circle the skills, which is calculate and interpret. Again, I'm just clicking on the word. This box is popping up on its own, and I go to mark the text. And then the things that we're calculating and interpreting in this case are the rate of change for a function. So when I highlight that, I let go and the box immediately appears. I go to mark your text and I choose underline. So it actually is really quick and easy to use, but sometimes I don't want to do this in front of the students. As teachers, we don't have much time. So I really like to manage the time that I do have as best as possible. So a feature that I really like for this is on this left-hand side, there's this preferences wheel. I can go ahead and just mark the learning targets, but when I'm screen sharing, either in person or virtually with my students, I can just turn it off. I can ask them to go ahead and mark their own learning targets. And when they're done, then I can just turn mine on and it's ready. Every second counts when we're teaching. So it's just a nice option to have. While we're here, I'll just show you. You can change the answer colors if you want, and you can do projector mode, which just simply means it darkens the text, makes it easier for everybody to see. All right, so we've talked about unpacking learning targets digitally. The next thing as a teacher I would want to go through and look at is, are there any words that I would want to highlight for my students? So sure, I'm going to have them go through and highlight some things, but there might be also some things that I want to call their attention to, like identifying subtasks, like my kids, when they read part B, making sure that they know that, yes, you have to make a table, but you also have to graph it, okay? And because so often, right, they do one part and they forget the other. They'll do one, but then skip the second part of the question. So I can go through and highlight things like this. Once you've highlighted something, if you click on it again, you can change the color of the highlighting, which is pretty cool too, because if you wanted to use yellow to highlight all like directional words, or use blue to highlight anything that is math content or vocabulary. You could do that to help them out, or have that ready to turn on and off with your annotations. Okay. Or they can go in and highlight them in different colors on their pages. Okay. So I could go through, I can highlight words. The next thing I'm going to look at is just even this context. So they're talking here about a wheelchair ramp. But like, if some of my kids have never seen a wheelchair ramp and they're trying to visualize this, sometimes context can be a little bit challenging. So again, what I like to do is, you notice right here, I put a picture of a wheelchair ramp. So when the students open their ebook page, they can click on that wheelchair ramp and they can see what it is we're talking about. So I really like to use those links. Again, I did that just by clicking here, and if it's a web link, you can use this, or if it's a document or a PDF that you've created and have a file for, you can attach it. I really like doing that a lot with the context. Like, there's a couple that have to do with deep sea diving and water pressure, and it's just so hard for kids to understand. There's actually a 2-minute video on the History Channel that talks about that water pressure from deep sea diving. So I'd put that link in here and let them watch that before they get started on it. So just some neat things you can do with attachments, either to websites or to documents that you've created. So again, speaking of other attachments, I see right here that they're going to have this new vocabulary, rate of change, and that's going to be huge in this course. So again, if I want them to do a graphic organizer, I can also attach that here, and I have this here ready for them to write in. Okay, so all of these documents you can either attach right in your ebook, or if you're a Google Classroom or Schoology or Canvas or whatever LMS you use, you can also put those right in your classwork folder for that as well. Whatever you and your students find easier, those are just 2 options. All right, so now I'm getting ready to facilitate this lesson, and I'm thinking about strategies, what this is going to look like. So how are they going to get started on number 1? So I'm going to add a sticky note in, and I want to put some directions in there on what they're supposed to do. 2 reasons. First, that's going to help me facilitating the lesson so that I don't forget things when I'm trying to keep my pace and I'm in the moment. But it's also a visual for my students, so they have it right there. I don't have to worry about writing it up on the board or repeating it on a virtual platform, or that it's right here. This is what I want them to do. They're going to use discussion groups to do number 1 because it's multi-part. So that chunk is just 1 number because it's multiple questions. Okay, I'm going to tell them the number 2s. So maybe for their roles, I'll assign them numbers 1 through 4. And I'm telling them that if you're a number 2, you're going to put 1A on your whiteboard. That could be a whiteboard in class, or that could be a virtual whiteboard. There's a lot of really good ones out there right now. And then I notice in part B of the question where they had to do that graphing, I'm going to give them simple directions on how to get to that graphing calculator. So the stuff that they have here, again, it's quick and easy for me. Doing this kind of prior planning really allows for help with my pacing and making sure I don't miss important things. But then this is also a good visual cue for the students. So I like to put my directions in yellow. They're working through number 1, and I look at this and I notice, oh, you know what? When they get to this one, graphing, I know from experience that a lot of them are going to graph the line, but a lot of them are going to graph the data points. So maybe with some of my classes, I don't say anything, but maybe with some of my other classes, I want to give them a hint. Okay, and so I like to use pink sticky notes to put some hints in, and I can tell them right here, like, hey, remember you're graphing the function, not just the ordered pairs. And so I can have this here ready for them. They see this on their paper, so when they go to do this, again, I can choose not to have it there and not show it until they need it, and then I can turn it on. So they work through, they get to the end, okay, and maybe some kids finish earlier than other kids. Okay, that's very realistic, as we know. Okay, so I also want to have something ready for the early finishers to do. So if they finish early, they're not going to sit there and have nothing to do. They're going to have something to think about that relates to the actual lesson. So this context has to do with positive values, but could you think of a context where a negative value might be appropriate? So again, just another use of sticky notes, it's on there, it's ready, it prevents the students constantly asking like, Ms. Buckshire, what am I supposed to do now? We're done. They always know that if it's relevant to the lesson, to the chunk that they're working on, there will be something for them to work on when they complete it before we're ready to debrief. So that brings us to debriefing. Now I'm at the end of this chunk. I use blue sticky notes for debriefing. My kids just know anytime they see a blue sticky note, then that's going to be what we're going to talk about as a whole group. The other nice thing about having it posted here for me is, again, so I don't forget to ask the important questions before moving on, but also for the students so that they can prepare for them. They can, in their small group work, their discussion time, whether it's a discussion group or think, pair, share, they can talk about these questions and make sure everybody in the group is ready to respond, not knowing who I'm going to call on. So it creates that safe space while still holding them accountable, knowing that everybody needs to be able to answer them, but you don't know who I'm going to call on when the time comes. All right, so I continue through the rest of the chunks doing the same thing. Putting in yellow sticky notes for in this next chunk. These are the directions, the strategies that you're going to use. You're going to use the think, pair, share. The threes are going to put these parts on the whiteboards and so on. I give them early finishers. I give them their debriefing questions. I also want to consider then after my sticky notes, is there anywhere where I might need a sample answer? So we talked about that graph in this example. And like I knew that my students were going to put the line or the data points. And so I just put both answers in there as a talking point so that when we get to this point, again, if it's in the classroom, I just project it on my LCD. If we're virtual, I screen share it and I say, hey, I noticed that everybody in the class did one of these two things. Which graph is appropriate given our context and why, or given the question that was asked and why? And then if possible, you can put them into breakout rooms and have them talk about it that way, set the timer for 1 minute, then call them back and share as a whole group. Or they can type on a Google Doc if they're not allowed in breakout rooms to get some thoughts out before you call on somebody so that, again, it's a safe space. They have a chance to collaborate before being put on the spot. But again, it's just a great option in our planning to put some sample answers in of things that, you know as a good teacher, some common errors that students will make. So having them there as talking points and as teachable moments. And again, that way it's not going to embarrass the kids because you're not showing everybody their paper. You're showing the two common responses that you've seen. So after I'm thinking about any responses that I might need, I have all my strategies in, I get to the end of my lesson, and I come to the check your understanding. Now the check your understanding, I always want them to do independently because they did the lesson collaboratively. So now can they transfer their knowledge to either decontextualized or a new context? And how much can they do on their own? And so I like to put the Khan Academy video link in there. So yeah, they did this whole lesson collaboratively, but to give them a little bit more reinforcement before they do some independent work, it's great if they watch the Khan Academy video. So SpringBoard has a partnership with the Khan Academy, and what they did, and you find these in the teacher resources. If you go to teacher resources, you go down alphabetically to, you can do the Khan Academy. That's a new resource I'm going to show you later. But if you do links, videos, you'll see that there is one of these listed for a correlation sheet for every single course, and it's for every single unit. Okay, I'm going to do a new share just to show you what that sheet looks like. Okay. Essentially, it just shows you every one of the lessons that we have in our course, and it shows us what videos would go along with that lesson so that we can utilize them during our teaching. So right now what you should be seeing is this Khan Academy video correlations. So for example, I was talking about lesson 9.2. When I go down to 9.2, it shows me that this is a really good video that you can use when you're doing this lesson. So I just copy the hyperlink to that, and then I post it right back in the actual digital lesson that we were just looking at, so that when the students get to that point, they are able to just click on that link and view it. And again, if you're doing this in person, you can absolutely just click on the link and project it for the whole class. Maybe you're, as the teacher, are the only one with digital access. And if that's the case, you can still use this method. Again, it makes it quick and easy for you as a teacher just to, hey, everybody, before we start working independently, let's go ahead and click and watch this quick Khan Academy video before we get started. And so when they click on that, again, it'll just open in a new tab for them and will be a short video for them to view. All right, so learning strategies. We've talked a lot about those in these sticky notes. These are all the things we're going to be using. Again, if we're in person in the classroom, it's great to put these learning strategies up on the learning strategy word wall. But if we're doing it virtually or completely digitally, even if we are in person, what might that look like? So I think, again, you use whatever works for you, your great ideas. This was one thing that I really like that works well for me is Padlet. So Padlet.com has a lot of free, you can get a free account, and I just used this format of columns, and these are the learning strategy categories: the reading, writing, problem solving, and collaborative. And as you talk about a new learning strategy with the students, so for example, we were just planning for in our lesson how the students were going to use discussion groups. And so I tell them, okay, I'm going to have you guys use discussion groups to answer this question, whether they're doing it in a breakout room virtually or using a shared document if they can't use breakout rooms, or maybe they're in the classroom doing digital in person and they're able to use this Padlet together, okay? And so they would come here and we would say, discussion groups is a collaborative strategy. We would just go ahead and we would add discussion groups on there. And again, this is a reference for them to use at any time. One nice thing about doing this, even if you are in the classroom, is that students always have access to it, even if they're not in the classroom. They're at home doing their homework and they're trying to read their math and they're having trouble. They can click open to their Padlet and say, you know what, I could use a think aloud to figure this out. I might close read it or read it aloud to try to figure it out. So again, that's just one option. I'm sure you guys have a lot of other great ideas too, but just in thinking about how you might use that learning strategies word wall in a digital way, whether you're in person or virtually. Okay, so I'm now thinking, I did all of this on my teacher copy. Okay, so this teacher copy, and I see in the top right here, this is like my book. The only people that will ever see this are the people that I project it for so that they can see it in person, or that I screen share for them to see virtually. What I do as a teacher now is I think about this stuff that I have here. I've completely planned my lesson. What do I want the kids to be able to see? So like, I want them to see this bell ringer. So I'm just going to copy that bell ringer and I'm going to come over to their class copy. Okay. And now this is exactly what students see when they open up their digital ebook. And there it is. So now the bell ringer is there and ready for them. So I know that I'm here because it says viewing class copy. So absolutely anything that I would want on here, I just copy and paste onto their page. We can't just auto copy and paste it to all the classes because you're going to want a lot of it to be different anyway. So for example, like in my first period class might be inclusion, Algebra 1, and I might use a lot of different strategies, ask a lot of different discussion questions than I might with my honors Algebra 1 class. And so really thinking about what is it that you want students to see and how that might vary from class to class. But it's as simple as that. You just copy it over. Whereas there are other things on my teacher copy that I might not want to copy over. Okay, so maybe I've highlighted some things, but I don't want them to see it. I want them to highlight on their own. Okay, whatever it may be. So you have this here as like your master copy, and then whatever you put on your student copy is going to show up for students when they go in. Okay, so now that we've planned our whole lesson, what do I do with it? So I need to assign it to my kids. Okay, now if I am a Google Classroom district, I just come up here to share to Google Classroom in the top right corner. And I can share the whole lesson, or I can share a part of the lesson. Now understand, if you choose to share a part of the lesson, all it does is it auto jumps them to that spot. So it still opens this whole page for them, but it will automatically jump them to the Check Your Understanding. They could certainly still scroll back up to the rest of the lesson. Okay, so I would just go ahead and click next, and you would go through and assign as you normally do to Google Classroom. If you're not Google Classroom, what do I do? So Canvas and Schoology, they already have, the College Board already has a set of links. So all of this information, the resources, assessments, the ebook, all of these links have already been provided, and you would just go into Canvas or Schoology and you would assign those links just as you normally would. So again, just to give you a very quick visual of what that looks like if you are one of those schools, is like if it's in Canvas, again, here, all of the links will have already been inputted. This is a model for ELA, but math looks the same. And you just assign your links through Canvas as you would. Same thing with Schoology. You come over here to materials, all of the SpringBoard resource links will be there, and you just assign them as you would. Okay, but then there's the question, well, what if?
Oh, sorry, Tammy. I just wanted to jump in and just clarify. So all of the things that you just walked through, all of the annotating and the Post-it notes and circling everything is exactly the same if you're using Schoology or Canvas as well. So where there is a difference is in the assignment, right? Because you're using Schoology or Canvas to assign, and you assign it just like you would anything else within that learning management system. But everything that you just walked through is completely transferable to a teacher who's accessing their SpringBoard digital platform through Canvas or Schoology. So I just wanted to make sure that that was really clear to folks.
Thank you. Yeah, the only difference is if you're not Google Classroom, you don't click this button. Everything else is exactly the same. But then in terms of assigning it now, though, we've talked about what you would do if you were Schoology, Canvas, or Google Classroom. But what if you're none of those three? So in terms of assigning the actual ebook page, there is soon to come another option here that will just say add to clipboard. And it just gives you a copyable link, which I'm going to model for you here in a second using the lesson quiz, that you just copy and paste for them whatever method you use to get your information out, whether it's a Google Doc, a Word doc, an email, whatever it may be, a link put into the chat of your Zoom or your Google Meet, but you just copy it to your clipboard, and then when the students click on that link, it will take them here. Another thing just to note is, especially for these ebook lessons, is when students open up their page, so I'm going to model this in a second as well, all that they have to do, so this is a student going in, all they have to do is go to their ebook and navigate, just as I modeled for you as the teacher. So when they get in, they come to this table of contents, and you just tell them as a teacher, you're going to do lesson 9-2 in unit 2 today. Okay, so so even if you're not assigning it per se, you are still able, they are still able to have access to everything. All right, so I have my lesson assigned to them. I'm thinking about when the lesson ends, I want them to take the lesson quiz. I might just be using it as an exit ticket, whatever it may be. That's going to be under assessments here. So I'm going to click on assessments. And this is lesson 9-2. So remember, we said that there is a lesson quiz for every single lesson. So I'm going to scroll all the way down until I get to lesson 9-2. And so I see when I get here, there's a digital version and a print version. Okay, I'm going to click on this digital version, and these are my two options. Again, I just share it to Google Classroom. So this link automatically pops up in their classwork in the Google Classroom if we use that. Canvas or Schoology, I would just go through either of those and assign this link that I would find there as I would assign anything else in Schoology or Canvas. But if I'm none of those three, you just click Add to Clipboard. And it tells me that copying to the clipboard was successful. Okay, and so no matter what I choose to to paste that link in now, okay, they have access to click on that link and to go to that assessment. And I'm going to show you that from the student's view in just a minute so that you can see where that ends up.
And Tammy, can I just add in here another little bit of information? So we know that there are some schools that are maybe using Microsoft Teams or Moodle, or there's a lot of different learning management systems. And so in those systems, you as the teacher have the ability to assign work, right? And so however you would do that in whatever Teams or Moodle or whatever else, you would copy the link like Tammy just showed you, and you would then paste that into the assignment to students. Students would then click on that link, and they're going to need to log in to SpringBoard Digital. So they'll do their work in SpringBoard Digital, but they'll be able to access that assignment, either the assessment or assignment, directly through the learning management system that they're used to using. So I just wanted to make sure that that sort of flow was really clear to folks.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So then, the last thing I would think about is maybe what homework would I assign them? So if I want them to do the 9-2 practice, for example, then again, I can either just tell them or write in their, wherever it is that I'm assigning, that they're to do the practice as homework. I can assign it again using the links. I can come here to Google Classroom and go down and assign it this way. So again, the kind of the same exact scenario that we were just talking about, but just in thinking about what maybe you would choose for homework. Again, maybe it's a teacher resource that you want to use for homework. So maybe it's like the additional unit practice. So if it's student facing, so that means that you'll see the word student in parentheses after it. When you click on it, it gives you those options again. You can share it to your Google Classroom, or again, you can just add it to your clipboard. Okay, and so when you click on that, again, you copy and paste that link, just like Amanda said, wherever it is that you post assignments for your students. As long as they're logged into SpringBoard Digital, when they click on that link, it'll bring them right to that homework page in this case. All right, so what I would like to do is actually just pause for a minute. The next thing that I'm going to show you, so this was kind of the planning. This was the teacher perspective of how I might use SpringBoard Digital to plan for facilitating a lesson that I might be using digitally as the only tech user face-to-face. I might be screen sharing and using these features. Maybe all of my students in class or at home virtually have a device, and so they're using these. So really in any one of your situations, this is just a quick overview of some things that I might do planning a virtual lesson as a teacher. After I give you a second to comment on this, I'm going to show you the student perspective. So like now, if I was a student, how do I open that stuff up? What do I see? Okay, and how do I respond as a student? So before I do that, I just want to give you a second to just kind of do a quick waterfall chat. If you could type something in the chat that was just new to you or exciting to you, something that you want to check out in all the free time that we don't have as teachers. Okay, I see the Google Classroom edition. Definitely makes things easier if you're a Google Classroom district, or again, really anything, because you can add those clipboard links into anything that you use. Okay, I love the online assignments for students using the ebook, how you can customize it using things like sticky notes. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I have to say, I've always loved SpringBoard. As much as I hate COVID and everything that's going on right now with the pandemic, it is amazing how well SpringBoard prepares us to do virtual instruction, or even in person but socially distanced instruction. When they can't be writing on the same whiteboards and sitting in close groups, there's still so much that we can use virtually to facilitate a collaborative lesson, and SpringBoard has it all set up in here and ready for us to use, which is pretty exciting. Okay, so I want to show you now, how about from the student's view? Okay, so as a student, okay, again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm in a different browser now so that I can log in as a student. So here's my sample student. I'm logging in. Okay. again, if I have Google Classroom, I can just click right here. And when I come to my classwork, everything that the teacher wants me to do is already linked and right here and ready. So these are all the things that I modeled for you over the last 20 minutes. They're all right here and there's direct links. Again, this would look the same in Canvas or Schoology. You would just assign them through those LMSs, or you would just copy the links with the Add to Clipboard feature into whatever you use for posting assignments. Okay, now, none of these links, remember, none of these links are going to open unless I am logged into SpringBoard. So even if I don't log in and then click here, because maybe I'm not Google Classroom, I still have my students log into SpringBoard Digital, and then they go to whatever it is, wherever it is they get their assignments. And then when they click on that link, for example, this lesson they're supposed to be doing today, okay, it will just open them directly to that lesson. Again, I do want to reinforce that if you're sitting there and thinking like, I don't have anywhere yet that I post assignment links, like I'm not comfortable with it, I'm not sure what we're doing, what we're using, remember, you can always even just send an email or put on your teacher website, whatever it may be, that you want the kids to do lesson 9-2 today. And they just open up their ebook, and then they navigate using the table of contents on the top left down to Unit 2, lesson 9-2. And so they can get there no matter what, the exact same place, whether there's a direct link through Google Classroom, some other LMS, an email, wherever you may have posted it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add in, Tammy, that on that springboard.collegeboard.org page, there are some explicit directions to students on how to use their ebook. And we will be posting shortly some videos that students can reference to walk through how to use the ebook. In case you're not there in person, you can assign that as an activity for students to do early on so that they understand how to use the table of contents or annotate or any of those things.
Okay, beautiful, thank you. So they're here, and at first they're thinking like, oh God, I don't see anything from my teacher. You always got to tell them on the top here, show teacher highlights. They need to toggle that on. Okay, so if you ever, sometimes I click in there in a teacher and I'm like, I did all this work, where is it? They have to do show teacher highlights. So I come in here as a student and I see that my teacher left me this bell ringer to do. I can't type in it because that's to all the students. That would be a catastrophe. But I can add my own sticky note and I can write bell ringer in it. And I can go ahead and put my response here. Okay, everything that I put on automatically saves in terms of the annotations. Okay, so again, I can do that. Everything else that I modeled from the teacher's perspective, they can do right here as a student in terms of highlighting and marking the text. So I'm not going to go back through and model that all, but that's all exactly the same as the student. Okay, those links that I put in here, oh, I can see that my teacher gave me a picture of the wheelchair ramp. Okay, because I'm not sure what that looks like. And here's the graphic organizer. So when I click on this link, this graphic organizer on rate of change comes up for me to type into. Okay, so all of that stuff that I had put here for them is right here, the interactive word wall. Okay, and so they have access to all of this. Again, either I put it in as a link or they have access to it in wherever it is I post assignments. Okay, so now as a student, I need to answer this question. So I've checked out all the stuff. I just come here to the plus sign and I click A, which is what we call the font tool. Okay, and I just go ahead and type in my answer. Okay, and then I click save. This is the one place that we do need to tell students, because sometimes it comes up like this and they don't realize it. They need to scroll down and click the save button. Okay, otherwise it's not going to be there next time they come back. Okay, and so now you can see that it's successfully saved. It will always be there until it gets deleted or until we choose to delete it. Okay, on part B, I see there's a table. When you click edit table, it just pops up and they can go ahead and they can type right into a table. And again, they have to go down and click save. Okay, the other thing that they have to do here is to make a graph. Okay, so again, I click this plus sign. We've talked about this being the font tool. They just type in like they would a Word document, attaching websites or documents from elsewhere. a drawing tool, but the calculator is right here in this toolbox. So they would just choose this graphing calculator. This is the same graphing calculator, the same Desmos option as they get on that landing page, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Okay, but so they can come right in here and plot their points, okay, or their lines, okay, by just typing into this Desmos feature. Okay, and again, they just have to remember to click Save. Okay, now, again, so that just tells me how I go through and how I answer all the questions. One other thing I want to show you, which is really neat from the student perspective, is let's say I'm reading this and I see this word lumberyard and I'm like, I don't know what that means. I can have it defined for me, okay? The other thing is, what if I read this and English is my second language, or I'm just not a strong, I'm not a strong reader, or English is my second language? I can actually just copy that and put it into something like Google Translate. I'd already done this one. Okay, and as soon as I paste it in there, it'll put it here in Spanish for me. So again, just taking advantage of other tools that we have while you're using SpringBoard Digital is such a great option as well. All right, so again, as a student, I come down, I see the teacher has hints for me, has things for me to do if I finish early, and I'm aware of what the debriefing question is. Okay, so now my teacher tells me that I need to go ahead and watch the video before I start. And again, you can see I did it on the student copy. All I do is I click on this link and it opens up this Khan Academy video for me that I can watch on that same skill before I get started on this independent work. Okay, so my homework is posted here, my lesson quiz. Okay, and so again, if I come here and I open up my lesson quiz that the teacher has posted for me, I can go ahead and start this and answer those 3 questions. So all that stuff that we talked about from the teacher's perspective is right here at point of use, either attached on this or in whatever venue my teacher uses for assignments, that the links to those assignments have been posted there for me. Okay, so now I'm thinking as a teacher, well, I want to see what this student, Julia, did. So what do I do? Okay, let me show you that. So I'm going to go back to my teacher login. Okay, so now I am back in as Tammy Buckshire on a different browser. Okay, I'm on my teacher copy. But I want to see how Julia just did on this. I can go into her class, and now I'm looking at the class copy. And if I click class copy again, it shows me all of the students that are in that class, which is so great because, I mean, yes, I can have kids transcribe their work onto expensive chart paper or use whiteboards or document cameras, but this is instantaneous, displaying their work this way if I want to use it instructionally. It also saves money on chart paper. And even if you are in person right now, the kids can't be walking up to chart paper and using whiteboards and sharing. They're socially distanced. So all you have to do is click on any one of their papers and you can project it for the whole class to see. So like, look, this was the graph that Julia Kate did. And now let's look and let's see a graph that a different student did. And you can talk about it that way if it doesn't need to be anonymous. Okay, it's also great just as the teacher, because even if I'm just doing this in private, I can come in here and see how did Julia Kate do on her paper. And so I can see the bell ringers that she posted. I can see the answers. There's her answer. And I can give her feedback. So I can just say, hey, great job. Or I could say, you're on the right track. Or give this some more thought. Or maybe I want to give her actual specific feedback so that, again, research shows she'll have the most growth if I don't just say good job, bad job. But I could just say some more directed feedback and type it in here just as somebody would do when leaving an answer. So I could say something like, did you consider the scale? Or, you know, consider this. And I could just type it in right there for them. And anything that I put on here, they're going to see when they open up their paper again. So this is how I can look at and kind of give them some feedback on their actual classwork by going to class copy and then their student copies. But let's say that I also want to see how she did on that lesson quiz, that 3-question lesson quiz that I assigned as an exit ticket even. All I do for that is I come here to progress reports. All right, and then when I get here, I'm going to pick one I know that has some to show. All right, and I choose activity quizzes report. And it starts off by showing me this nice horizontal bar graph of how my students did. Okay, these are not real students, by the way, so don't be horrified by the results. And then I can look at the item analysis report, which is the one that I love, because I can look at question by question and say, like, oh my God, only 9 of the kids got number 3. What was that one about? And I can open it up and see this is what question 3 was about. Okay, and so again, these reports are available as soon as the students take this, take that assessment link. It comes here, it grades them all for us. So it's a really great option. So I know some people are wondering too, like, well, that was just the lesson quiz. You get that same report for the unit assessment or any assessment you make that is computer scoreable. So as long as it's not open response. And so some people ask, well, can I just make my own? What if I wanted 5 questions or 10 questions? Under assessments, you can come here to this plus button, okay? And that's create assessments. So you filter to mathematics and you pick whichever course it is you'd like to create an assessment for. And there are 2 item types, automatically graded or teacher graded. If you want to do one as both, I just make like a part A and a part B. I might have 20 questions that are automatically graded, and I might have 3 open response. Those are ones that I'm going to have to go in and score, but all those are going to get graded for me. Then you can browse by either the course unit or the standard. So let's say I just want all questions that have to do with unit 2, or maybe I'm working on these 2 standards over this next couple weeks. I only want questions that have to do with those standards. And you can mix these, okay? And so I can come in here and just say go to unit 2 and pick some items to look at. And then when I click over here on the right side, and again, I just want to emphasize this is a quick overview just so you know that this exists, but there are directions that walk you through step by step how to do this when you go and you have time to look at it after this webinar. I click on this and I see, oh, here's one question. Do I like it? If I do, I check it off. I can look through as many questions as I want, see which ones I want. Once I have completed that, I come down here and I click next. This just allows me to reorder them. Maybe I wanted this question first. It lets me switch. Okay, I give it a little bit of a name here. It doesn't let you go on unless you name it. So if you're ever wondering why you can't move on, it's because you have to give it a name. Okay, I'm going to go to the next, and then I can publish it to my school. So anybody that has my same, that's in my school, can view that assessment, and they can also clone and edit it. So maybe they only want 10 questions, but I had 15. They can delete some, they can change some, or I can publish it only to me. So I'm the only one that's ever going to see that assessment. Okay, and so again, that's just a very quick look at how you can create your own assessment using the Teacher Assessment Builder. All right, so I'm going to put a poll up for you now that just gives me some feedback from you on some of the things that we've seen. What is kind of most exciting to you so far at this point?
And as folks are taking the poll and responding, I did want to add one additional point of clarification. When you are in the progress report section, students cannot see their grades, their results in assessments until the teacher selects release grades. That helps prevent cheating, right? And kids sharing different bits of information about the assessment. And so I just wanted to make sure that folks knew that. Now, if you are a Canvas or a Schoology user, you do not need to select release grades because you would control that within Schoology or Canvas.
Okay, thank you. And thank you guys for taking the poll.
Oh, I think I might have put the wrong poll up. Let me go ahead and change that really quickly. But I see.
No, you're good. Nope. You're good.
That's the right one? Oh, okay,
yep.
Great.
Yeah, so good. A lot of people are excited about those annotation tools and the student answering tools. So yeah, with our students potentially being virtual or socially distanced, then it's a great option for them to be able to respond digitally. All right. So the last thing that I want to show you before we do some Q&A, which we've already talked a lot about, is this digital partnerships. So the Khan Academy does most in Google Classroom. So again, you're thinking, oh, we already talked about a lot of that. We absolutely did. But there's a few highlights that we didn't talk about that I want to make sure you are aware of. The first one is with the Khan Academy partnership. So we had those links that I screen shared that document where every lesson has the links correlated to it already. But in teacher resources, there's also a new document there that's titled Khan Academy. So it's, again, alphabetical order. You scroll down to it. And when you open this link, you'll find this page. It's just a great way. It organizes like the lessons with any mini lessons that might be available with the correlating videos. So it just kind of gives you more of a pacing flow, like these are grouped together when you would use them at point of use. So that is one new thing with Khan Academy that I just wanted to make sure you were aware of, that is new to us, but is available now. So make sure you check that out. We have talked a lot about the partnership with Google Classroom, okay? So the last thing is with Desmos that I want to make sure everybody is aware of. And we've always had this correlation drawn out for us with the Desmos activities, but it does work a little bit differently than it used to. So what I always do when I start planning is I come here. So again, I'm in Algebra 1 right now. I come down here and I look. This game goes well with lessons 15, 1, 2, and 3. So this just tells me I actually go to my digital lesson and put a sticky note in, or I go to my actual book and put a big sticky note that says Desmos. As a reminder, when I do lesson 15.1, this is a great game for the students to use in Desmos. And I'm going to show you how that works in just a second. So I just scroll through and make sure I have them all. When I do lesson 8.1, 8.2, and 20, this is a great game in Desmos for the students that will correlate with these lessons. Okay, so that's what you do from the teacher planning side of it. Okay, so just so you can see how it kind of works, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to share it to Google Classroom so that the students have the direct link to this as well. Again, we've talked about assigning it in any way or adding it to clipboard, however you would normally assign. Those options are still here, the same as it was with the resources, the assessments, and the ebook. But I want to just give you a quick preview of what this actually looks like. It runs a little bit differently now than it used to. So when you get here, you click Create Class Code, okay? And then, let me move this box. I click on Student Link, and I just copy that link. And so, again, same thing, the add to clipboard or Google Classroom, however you may do it, you can actually just give them this link, okay? And so what's great is then when students open that link, okay, and I'm going to switch to the student view, they can go in and click on that link and play that Desmos activity that you have for them. Okay? So when the student clicks on that link that's provided to them, whichever way you want, I'm going to continue without signing in, and I'm just going to put my sample student name in and say go. Okay, when I do that, it brings up this really fun activity that I can play that directly correlates to the lesson that I just did. So this is telling me that the ball needs to pick up those stars. I understand it, I move on to the next screen. Now it's telling me to change a number, okay? And let's say I make this a 2 and I realize, oh, I'm going the wrong way. So maybe I need to make it a negative number. -1, oh, not quite far enough. What if it was -2? So it really emphasizes, again, the skills and knowledge that we were learning in our lessons. The kids continue through these slides. They love them. They're super engaging. Okay, so that's what it looks like from the student's perspective. Now, from the teacher's perspective, the really cool thing about it is I can see how everybody is doing on my screen. Okay, so I can view the dashboard for this class. Okay, and it shows me any student that has been logged in and has been playing. So there's the Julia, that's the student that was playing, and I can see she just finished screen 2. And so it would list all of my students here, and I can anonymize them, and that's the same for all of whichever game you assign to them. And the most fun thing is I can pause it. So what happens now is if I'm ready, either in classroom or virtually, and I need to get their attention back, and I need to make sure that they're not still messing around on this, you can see this is the student screen. They're paused. They can't keep playing until I unpause it. And again, that works for all of the activities, not just this marble slide example that I'm showing you. So again, it's just another cute feature. So I'm going to let Amanda go ahead and put that last poll up just on these partnership programs, just to kind of get some feedback on how you guys are feeling about that. Okay, so yeah, the Desmos option is really fun, and yeah, the Google Classroom as well. Thank you guys for taking this poll. Okay, so yeah, hopefully you're as excited about a lot of these features as I am and have been. I really want to reinforce, go to that website. Again, the link to it is on the participant booklet. There's so many awesome support resources, and they're always posting new things, so check back. Again, we do recognize that this is a lecture format webinar, and so you learn by doing. So get in there, get your hands on. You will have questions. It is super teacher friendly, so I really encourage you to feel confident messing around, checking things out, and then contacting tech support and checking for these different support user resources and manuals that have been posted here. Because I think you'll find it is a lot more user-friendly and easier to use than you might realize. So again, I hope you don't, if you're feeling at all overwhelmed, yes, there's a lot of stuff there. But again, our goal was just to give you a big overview on some of the features that are available on SpringBoard Digital that we can use to facilitate lessons, whether we're in person, whether everybody has a device or we're the only one, if we're socially distancing, or if we're virtual. Almost everything we talked about can still be utilized, which given these uncertain times, I think is a real benefit that we get through using SpringBoard. So I'd love to open it up now to any questions that you have that have not been answered yet.
Thank you so much, Tammy. We'll give folks a few minutes to go ahead and write. And as they are writing, I'm going to go ahead and type in to the chat a link to our survey that we ask all of our participants in the webinars to complete. It just gives us feedback on how we can better support you through this school year. These additional webinars were added because of folks' input in wanting some additional support with SpringBoard Digital. So we really appreciate the input and the feedback that we get from everybody. The other thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and put a link in. We are hosting some office hours through October, every Tuesday and Thursday. And I'm putting a link into the chat. It's going from our springboard.collegeboard.org website, where they can go ahead and register for those office hours. And that's just an opportunity to be supported by one of our implementation directors, where folks, as attendees from today may go in and start doing some work that you showed, and they might have some questions. And so the office hours are a great place to go ahead and be able to ask those questions and get them answered. Now, I will say the office hours is not a place if you're having trouble logging in. They will not be able to support that kind of tech support, but we do ask that you email sbtechsupport@collegeboard.org, and they'll be able to help you with logging in if you're having issues logging in. Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions. I see a wonderful comment from an attendee who says, great job, you've covered so much that will be so helpful for the teachers. And I think that's very true. Thank you so much, Tammy. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being here. There's a lot going on right now, and we're all in this together. So the best of luck.
Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. You again will receive a copy of this recording within the next 48 hours, and they will be placed both on the springboard.collegeboard.org website as well as the SpringBoard digital site under professional learning. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a really wonderful day.